Commander stood at the viewing window of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and looked down at the blue planet below. Earth, the humans called it. Such a simple name for such a simple world. He had studied the reports for months. He knew everything about these creatures. They were small. They were weak. They lived for barely 100 years before their bodies failed them. They had no claws, no armor, no venom. By all measures of galactic civilization, they should not have survived this long. The Dominion had conquered 63 species across the galaxy. Some had been strong. Some had been clever. All had fallen. Himself had led the conquest of a species with natural bone armor and the strength to crush metal with their bare hands. That campaign had taken 2 years. The High Council expected Earth to fall in 3 days. Believed they were being generous. His second-in-command, sub-commander, approached with a data tablet in his clawed hands. Was young and eager, hungry for glory. This would be his first major conquest. "Commander, the delegation ship has returned," reported. "The humans have given their response." Turned from the window. "And have they accepted our terms of surrender?" His face showed confusion, an expression that looked strange on features. "They have not, Commander. Their military leader, a General Park, sent only a single message." "Show me." The tablet lit up with a recording. A human male appeared on screen. He was older, with gray hair and deep lines on his face. His eyes were calm, almost peaceful. He wore a simple uniform with medals on his chest. When he spoke, his voice was steady. "To the Dominion, you have demanded our surrender. You have promised destruction if we refuse. We have discussed your offer." The human paused, and something strange happened to his face. His lips curved upward, showing his teeth. Later would learn this expression was called a smile. "Our answer is this. Come and take it." The recording ended. Waited for to respond. The commander stared at the blank screen for a long moment, then began to laugh. The sound echoed through the command deck, and soon other officers joined in. The idea was absurd. A primitive species, barely capable of leaving their own planet, had just challenged the greatest military force in known space. "They have spirit," admitted, still amused. "I almost respect it, almost." He straightened his uniform and addressed his officers. "Begin the invasion. Standard conquest protocol. I want boots on the ground within the hour." The war machine moved with practiced efficiency. Drop ships launched from the fleet, carrying thousands of soldiers toward the planet's surface. Watch them descend like metal rain, dark shapes against the blue sky of Earth. He had chosen their landing zone carefully. Intelligence reports identified a large coastal city on a peninsula as a major population center. Capturing it would break human morale and demonstrate power. The first reports came in quickly. Landing successful, minimal resistance. The humans were falling back. Nodded with satisfaction. It was exactly as he expected. The humans had primitive projectile weapons, simple vehicles, basic communication systems. They were no match for plasma rifles and energy shields. By nightfall, the city would be his. He turned to watch the planet below, imagining the fear the humans must be feeling. 63 species had felt that same fear. 63 species had learned to kneel before the Dominion. Humans would be the 64th. Hours passed. The sun moved across Earth's sky. Reports continued to come in, but something began to change in their tone, brought each update with growing concern on his face. "Commander, we have secured the landing zone, but our forward units are reporting difficulties." "Difficulties?" frowned. "Explain." "The humans are not engaging in open battle as expected. They strike from hidden positions, then disappear. Our soldiers report enemies in the buildings, in the underground tunnels, even in the water channels. We take a position, and moments later, we are attacked from 3 different directions." Dismissed this with a wave of his hand. "Desperate tactics of a dying species. They cannot maintain such resistance for long. Continue the advance." But as the hours stretched on, the reports grew stranger. Soldiers were not just dying in battle. They were vanishing. Entire squads would enter a building and never emerge. Communication signals would cut off mid-sentence. Bodies were found in impossible places, as if the humans could move through walls. Returned again, his expression now clearly worried. "Commander, I have reviewed the combat footage. I believe you should see this." The screen showed a street in the human city. A patrol moved carefully through the rubble, weapons raised. They were well-trained soldiers, veterans of 3 previous conquests. They checked corners, watched rooftops, followed every protocol. It should have been safe. Then a human appeared. He came from nowhere, dropping from a ledge that no scanner had detected. He moved faster than any human should move, faster than the reports said was possible. In his hands was a primitive weapon, a tube of metal that fired solid projectiles. The soldiers turned to face him, but they were too slow. The weapon roared, and 3 soldiers fell before anyone could return fire. The human did not run. He rolled behind cover, emerged from a different angle, and fired again. 2 more soldiers dropped. The remaining finally got their plasma rifles aimed, but the human had already disappeared into a hole in the ground that had not been there moments before. The survivors looked around in confusion. The fight had lasted less than 10 seconds. Watched the footage in silence. He played it again, then a 3rd time. "Who is that soldier?" he finally asked. "We have identified him as Captain Bay," answered. "He commands a small unit of what the humans call special forces. 1 soldier, 1 primitive weapon, 5 of our warriors dead in seconds," spoke slowly as if trying to understand his own words. "How is this possible?" Hesitated before answering. "I have been studying human military history, Commander. It is extensive. They have been fighting wars for over 10,000 years, not against other species, against each other." Turned sharply. "What?" "Humans have spent their entire existence at war with themselves. They have developed strategies and tactics for every possible situation. They have weapons designed to kill other humans, which they have now turned against us. They do not fight like prey animals. They fight like predators." For the first time since the invasion began, felt something cold in his chest. He did not have a name for it yet. He pushed the feeling aside and focused on the battle. "Double our ground forces. Bring in the heavy units. I want that city taken by morning." His orders were followed, but as night fell over the human city, something strange happened. The humans had pushed forward, lighting fires throughout the streets. In the dancing light, could see human soldiers watching the positions. They did not look afraid. They did not look desperate. They were smiling, all of them, showing their teeth in that strange expression as if they knew something he did not, as if they were enjoying this. Stared at the screen for a long time. The cold feeling in his chest grew stronger. It would be many days before he finally gave that feeling its true name. Fear. 3 days had passed since the invasion began. The city should have fallen in hours. Instead, it had become a nightmare. Sub-Commander led his patrol through the broken streets, his plasma rifle held tight against his chest. Every shadow seemed alive. Every building watched him with dark, empty windows. The humans had turned their own city into a trap, and his soldiers walked through it like blind creatures waiting to be eaten. "Keep moving," ordered, though his voice was quieter than it should be. "Stay alert." His soldiers obeyed, but he could see the fear in their movements. These were warriors who had conquered 3 worlds. Now they jumped at the sound of wind through broken glass. The humans had done this to them, not through strength but through patience, through cruelty, through methods they had never seen before. That morning had found one of his squads. They had been arranged in a circle, sitting upright, their weapons placed neatly in their laps. They looked almost peaceful, except that none of them were alive. There were no wounds he could see, no signs of struggle, just 12 dead soldiers arranged like a message. A message that said, "We can reach you anywhere." The patrol rounded a corner and stopped. In the middle of the street stood a human female, small and young, her hands raised in the air. She wore torn clothing and had dirt on her face. She did not move. Raised his weapon. Secure her, she may have information. His soldiers approached carefully, searching for traps. They found none. The human allowed herself to be captured without resistance. She said nothing as they bound her hands, nothing as they marched her back to the command post. Her silence was strange. Prisoners usually begged or screamed or tried to bargain. This one simply watched them with calm, dark eyes. Was waiting when they arrived. He had come down from the flagship to oversee the ground campaign personally, though suspected the commander was also trying to understand what was happening. They all were. You captured a prisoner, observed. Good. Perhaps she can tell us about their defenses. The human female was brought forward. She looked small and fragile next to the towering soldiers, walked around her slowly, studying her like a curious insect. What is your name, human? She met his eyes without fear. Private, Korean Army serial number. I do not care about your number, leaned closer. I want to know about your defenses, your weapons, your commanders. You will tell me everything. Private looked up at the alien commander. She was perhaps 20 years old, barely an adult by human standards. She should have been terrified. Instead, she laughed. It was a strange sound in the dark command post. Light and almost musical, completely wrong for the situation. Why do you laugh? Demanded. Because you think you are winning, she answered. Her voice was steady. You think because you have bigger weapons, because you have more soldiers, because you come from the stars, that you will conquer us. You do not understand anything. Felt anger rising in his chest. We have conquered 63 species. We. You have never faced humans. She interrupted him without fear. You have no idea what you have woken up. Do you know our history? Do you know what we have done to each other? The wars we have fought, the weapons we have built. You are not fighting farmers or merchants or dreamers. You are fighting the most successful killers our planet has ever produced. Stepped forward. Commander, she is trying to. Let her speak, was curious despite his anger. Continue, human. Smiled. It was not a friendly expression. My grandmother survived a war in this very city. Her grandmother survived another war before that. We have been fighting on this ground for thousands of years. Every hill, every building, every tunnel, we know them all. We have bled on every inch of this land. Do you think your fancy weapons frighten us? We invented weapons that can burn a whole city in a flash of light. We pointed those weapons at each other. We lived with that fear every single day and still went to work, still raised families, still built civilizations. What can you possibly threaten us with that we have not already threatened ourselves? The command post was silent. Even the guards had stopped moving. Stared at the small human for a long moment. You are brave, but bravery alone will not save your people. No, agreed. But bravery combined with 10,000 years of practice at killing, that might do the job. Before could respond, an explosion shook the building. Alarms began to scream. Soldiers rushed in all directions, shouting reports that made no sense. An attack. Humans had penetrated their perimeter. Somehow, impossibly, they were inside the base. Grabbed how? How did they get through our defenses? Another explosion closer now. Through the chaos, caught a glimpse of movement. Human soldiers in dark clothing, moving like shadows. They carried those primitive metal weapons, the ones that somehow punched through armor like it was paper. At their head was a man recognized from the footage. Captain Bay. He moved with a calm efficiency that was almost beautiful, each motion precise and deadly. He did not waste a single bullet. Every shot found its target. Soldiers fell around him. Veterans of 3 conquests, warriors who had never known defeat, dropped like grass before a scythe. Base team moved through them as if they were nothing, as if they were already dead and did not know it yet. The attack lasted perhaps 2 minutes. Then the humans were gone, vanishing into the night as quickly as they had appeared. They left behind 30 dead soldiers and one damaged shield generator that would take days to repair. In the confusion, realized something. The prisoner was gone. Someone had freed her during the attack. How had they known where she was? How had they gotten into the most secure part of the base? Stood in the center of the ruined command post, looking at the bodies of his soldiers. His face showed an expression had never seen on his commander before. It was not anger. It was not confusion. It was the beginning of understanding. Commander said quietly, "What do we do?" Did not answer immediately. He was staring at a wall where someone had written something in blood. A message in simple characters that the translation systems easily decoded. It read, "We don't fight to survive. We fight to win." "We underestimated them," finally said. His voice was hollow. "We thought they were prey because they are small and soft and die easily. We forgot to ask the most important question." "What question, Commander?" Turned to face his subordinate. In his eyes was something new, something that would grow stronger in the days to come. Fear was there, yes, but also a terrible respect. "We never asked what kind of predator evolves to look like prey." That night, for the first time in his military career, Commander could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the face of Private. He heard her laugh echoing in the darkness. He saw the smile on Captain Bay's face as he killed, and he understood something that made his blood run cold. The humans were not afraid of death. They were not afraid of pain. They were not even afraid of losing. They had made peace with all of these things long before they arrived. And that made them the most dangerous enemy the Dominion had ever faced. 3 weeks, 21 days of battle. The invasion that was supposed to last 3 days had become something else entirely, something they had never experienced before. Commander stood in his war room aboard the Eternal Conquest, studying the holographic map of the battle zone. Red marks showed positions. Blue marks showed human resistance. 3 weeks ago, the blue marks had been scattered and weak. Now they formed a solid wall, pushing back against the red on every front. The humans were not just surviving, they were winning. "Report," ordered, though he already knew what he would hear. His tactical officer approached with obvious reluctance. No one wanted to deliver bad news to the commander anymore. "We have lost the industrial district. Human forces recaptured it this morning. Casualties are significant." "How significant?" 342 soldiers, 4 armored vehicles, 2 patrol ships. The officer paused. "Commander, they are using our own weapons against us." This was the part that kept awake at night. 17 days ago, humans had captured a small outpost. They had taken everything: weapons, armor, communication equipment, shield generators. Had expected them to simply use these items as they were. Primitive species always did that. They took superior technology and used it without understanding. The humans did something different. They took the technology apart, they studied it, they learned how it worked, and then somehow they made it better. Doctor was the name that appeared in every intelligence report now. She was a human scientist, a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She led a team of researchers in some hidden laboratory, and she was performing miracles. In 17 days, her team had reverse-engineered plasma weapons. Not just them, improved them. The human versions fired faster, hit harder, and were easier to repair. 17 days. That had taken 2 centuries to develop that same technology. "It is not possible," said, though he had said the same thing many times before. "No species adapts this quickly." "Commander," the tactical officer said carefully, "I have studied human history as you ordered. They have always been like this. When they discovered fire, they used it for warmth, cooking, and war within a single generation. When they learned to work metal, they immediately made weapons. Every discovery, every advancement, they find ways to use it for survival and combat. It is what they do." Thought about this. He thought about the reports he had read, the footage he had watched. humans fighting with sticks and stones, humans fighting with swords and arrows, humans fighting with guns and bombs, humans fighting with machines and computers, always fighting, always adapting, always getting better at the one thing they seem to love most: destruction. A communication alert sounded, appeared on the screen, his face covered in dirt and what might have been blood. He was commanding the remaining forces. "Commander, we have captured a human pilot. She may have valuable information. Bring her to me." An hour later, Lieutenant was brought before. She was young, perhaps 30 years old, with short black hair and a bruise covering half her face. Her flight suit was torn, and her left arm hung at a wrong angle. She had been shot down that morning, her aircraft destroyed by anti-air defenses. She should have died. Instead, she had walked for 3 hours through enemy territory before being captured. "You are a pilot," observed. "What do you know about your military's plans?" Looked at him with steady eyes. "I will tell you nothing. Your loyalty is admirable but pointless. Your planet will fall. It is only a matter of time." Something changed in her expression. Not fear, not anger, something that looked almost like pity. "You still do not understand, do you? You think this is about winning or losing. It is not. It is about making sure you lose even if we cannot win." Leaned forward. "Explain." "We have a word for it: spite." She spoke the word carefully, as if it were sacred. "It means we would rather burn everything to the ground than let you have it. If you conquer our cities, we will destroy them first. If you take our resources, we will poison them. If you kill us, we will make sure we take as many of you with us as possible. You cannot win against us because we have already decided that you losing is more important than us surviving." Stared at her. "That is insane." "Yes," agreed. "It is. That is why it works." Before could respond, alarms began blaring. The holographic map flickered and changed. Blue marks were advancing across the entire front. Not small attacks, not raids, a full-scale counteroffensive. Reports poured in faster than could process them. Human forces were attacking everywhere at once. They had coordinated their assault across thousands of kilometers, striking at the exact same moment. Their timing was perfect. Their strategy was perfect. At the head of the main assault was a name had learned to hate: General Park, the human who had told him to come and take it. Now he was coming to take it back. "They recaptured the port," someone reported. "The northern highway is lost. Human forces are inside the industrial district again. They have air support. Where did they get functional aircraft?" Watched the map turn blue. 3 cities fell in 48 hours. Positions that had held for weeks were overrun in minutes. The humans did not fight like a desperate species making a last stand. They fought like conquerors, like predators who had been toying with their prey and finally decided to strike. One report in particular caught attention. A ground patrol had encountered a small group of humans defending a critical bridge. They had numerical advantage. They had superior weapons. Victory should have been simple. But one human soldier refused to die. His name was Corporal. He was young, barely an adult by human standards. During the battle, he was shot 3 times, wounds that would have killed any. He did not fall. He kept fighting. When his weapon ran out of ammunition, he picked up a plasma rifle and kept shooting. When his squad was overwhelmed, he used his own body as a shield to protect their retreat. He took 17 hits before he finally collapsed, and even then he was not dead. The soldiers stood around him, watching in disbelief as he continued to breathe, his body destroyed but his will refusing to break. Human medical teams recovered him during the counteroffensive. Reports indicated he would survive. He would fight again. Watched the footage of Corporal over and over. He watched a human take damage that would have killed 3 warriors. He watched that same human keep fighting until his body physically could not move anymore. "What are they?" asked quietly. He had returned to the flagship, too wounded to continue command. "Commander, what are these creatures?" Thought about everything he had seen, the smile on Private's face as she was captured, the calm efficiency of Captain Bay as he killed, the impossible speed of Doctor's research, the spite in Lieutenant's voice, the unbreakable will of Corporal. "They are not what we thought," answered slowly. "We thought we were invading a primitive world full of weak creatures waiting to be conquered. We were wrong." He turned to face the viewing window, looking down at the blue planet that had become his nightmare. "We invaded a world of apex predators who had simply been waiting for a real challenge. And now that they have one, they are very, very happy." Far below, General Park's forces continued their advance. The humans were not just fighting back, they were enjoying it. And that terrified more than anything else. The war had changed, could feel it in his bones. What had begun as a simple conquest had become something else, a lesson, a demonstration. The humans were not just defending their world anymore. They were teaching what true terror meant. It started with the communications. Every ship, every ground unit, every piece of equipment relied on encrypted signals that had never been broken. 63 species had tried and failed to crack military codes. The encryption was considered perfect. A young human named Han broke it in 6 hours. He was barely 20 years old, a technician working in some underground bunker. He had never seen alien technology before the invasion. None of that mattered. He looked at the encryption, studied its patterns, found its weaknesses, and opened it like a simple lock. Suddenly, the humans knew everything. They knew where patrols would be before they arrived. They knew which supply lines were vulnerable. They knew when ships would be refueling, when soldiers would be sleeping, when commanders would be distracted. Every advantage they had built over centuries of conquest was gone in a single night. Stood in his war room, watching his carefully planned operations fall apart one after another. A supply convoy was ambushed. A forward base was destroyed. 3 patrol ships were shot down by missiles that should not have been able to target them. The humans were everywhere, striking with perfect timing, vanishing before counterattacks could be organized. "We have to change our encryption," said. His voice was desperate. "Change it to what?" replied. "If they broke the first code in hours, they will break the next one in minutes. The boy is still working. He is still learning. Every day he understands more." That was the terrible truth about humans. They did not stop. They did not rest. They did not accept defeat. They just kept pushing, kept learning, kept getting better. A message arrived from the High Council. Read it with cold anger. They questioned his leadership. They demanded explanations for the losses. They threatened to replace him if the situation did not improve. He wanted to tell them the truth. He wanted to say that no commander could have succeeded here, that this planet was different, that these creatures were different, but he knew they would not believe him. They were too far away, too safe, too confident in their power. Let them come and fight the humans themselves. Then they would understand. A junior officer interrupted his thoughts. "Commander, we have intercepted a human broadcast. I believe you should see this." The screen flickered to life. A human female appeared, young and confident. She wore a simple military uniform, and behind her were charts and diagrams that recognized with growing horror. "This is Doctor of the Korean Research Institute," she announced. "I am broadcasting on all frequencies to inform our alien visitors of a new development." She smiled, that same smile that all humans seem to share, that expression that looked friendly but held something dark beneath. "Your energy shields operate on a rotating frequency pattern designed to adapt to incoming weapons. Very clever. We have developed a countermeasure. Our new weapons will penetrate your shields with 93% effectiveness." The screen showed a demonstration. A human weapon fired at a shield generator. The blue energy that should have blocked the shot flickered and died. The weapon struck the generator, destroying it completely. "We completed this research in 6 weeks," Doctor continued. We expect to have it deployed across all front lines within 4 days. Thank you for the technological samples. They were very educational. The broadcast ended. 6 weeks. They had studied shield technology, understood its principles, and developed a counterweapon in 6 weeks. Felt dizzy. His species had worked on shield technology for 300 years. Humans had defeated it in the time it took to change seasons. But the worst was still to come. Captain Bay launched his attack at midnight local time. His target was the main supply depot, a massive underground facility that held weapons, fuel, and equipment for the entire invasion force. It was protected by 2,000 soldiers, multiple shield generators, and a network of automated defenses. Bay went in with 30 men. Watched the security footage with a mixture of horror and fascination. The humans moved like ghosts, slipping past sensors that should have detected them. They killed silently when they had to, avoided combat when they could. Each member of the team knew exactly where to go, exactly what to do. There was no hesitation, no confusion, no fear. They reached the center of the depot in less than an hour. There, Captain Bay personally planted enough explosives to destroy the entire facility. Before he activated the detonator, he paused. He looked directly at the security camera. He knew he was being watched. "Commander," he said, his voice was calm, almost friendly. "Do you know what happens when you corner a human? We do not surrender. We do not beg. We make sure that if we die, we take as many of our enemies with us as possible." He held up the detonator. "See you in hell." The screen went white. The explosion was visible from orbit. The supply depot, everything in it, and 2,000 soldiers ceased to exist in a single flash of light. Captain Bay and his 30 men died with them. They had known they would not survive. They went anyway. Stared at the empty screen for a long time. He thought about what kind of species produces soldiers willing to die just to hurt their enemies. He thought about the smile on Bay's face in his final moments. Not fear, not regret, satisfaction. That night dreamed for the first time in decades. He dreamed of human faces, all of them smiling, all of them advancing toward him in the darkness. He woke up screaming. The next day brought more disasters. The fleet lost 4 capital ships to human weapons, not small fighters or ground-based missiles. Massive warheads that the humans called nuclear weapons. Devices that split atoms to release unimaginable destruction. The truly terrifying part was not their power. It was learning why humans had invented them. They had created these weapons to use on each other. 2 human nations had built thousands of these devices, each pointed at the other. For decades, they had lived with the knowledge that at any moment their entire species could be destroyed. They called it mutual assured destruction. They had accepted the possibility of extinction and continued living their normal lives anyway. What kind of creature does that? What kind of mind develops the ability to destroy itself and then just continues existing? Private escaped that same day. She had been captured again during a failed raid, held in a detention facility that should have been impossible to break out of. She not only escaped but destroyed the entire facility on her way out. When asked later how she had done it, she simply said she was motivated. Meanwhile, the human counteroffensive continued. Shield-breaking weapons were deployed exactly on schedule. Soldiers who had relied on their shields for protection suddenly found themselves vulnerable. They died in numbers that the High Council would never believe. An elder commander, one of the few survivors from the ground campaign, approached that evening. His name was, and he had seen more battles than anyone alive. His eyes held a haunted look that had never seen before. "Commander," said quietly, "I must ask you something." "Speak." "Why do the humans fight so hard? They must know they are outnumbered. They must know that even if they win this battle, more ships could come. Why do they not negotiate? Why do they not surrender when the odds are against them?" Thought about everything he had witnessed. The defiance of Private, the sacrifice of Captain Bay, the impossible brilliance of Doctor and Han, the unbreakable will of Corporal, the calm confidence of General Park. He finally understood. Because they enjoy it, answered. Somewhere deep inside them, in a place they do not talk about, they have been waiting for this. They have spent their entire existence fighting each other, and now they have a common enemy. Something that makes their internal conflicts seem small, something that unites them. He looked out at the blue planet, now covered with the fires of war. They are not fighting us out of desperation. They are fighting us because this is what they were born to do, and they have never been happier. Said nothing, there was nothing to say. The terror had become real. The end came faster than expected. 6 weeks after the invasion began, the Dominion faced something it had never experienced in its entire history. Total defeat, not a strategic withdrawal, not a negotiated peace. Complete and absolute failure. Stood on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, watching the battle unfold below. His fleet, once the pride of the Dominion, was in ruins. Half his ships were destroyed. The rest were damaged, limping through space with failing systems and dying crews. The ground forces were gone entirely, either killed or captured by human armies that moved with terrible efficiency. General Park's face appeared on the communication screen. He looked the same as he had on the first day, calm and steady, as if the entire war had been nothing more than a simple exercise. "Commander," Park said, "I am giving you a choice. You can leave our system now, take your surviving ships and never return, or you can stay and be destroyed. There is no third option." Felt anger rising in his chest. "You cannot destroy us. Even with your victories, you do not have the power to." "We do now." The screen changed to show something that made blood run cold. Human ships, not the primitive vessels they had started with. New ships, built in the weeks since the invasion began. Ships that incorporated technology, improved and modified by human engineers. Ships that were already rising from Earth's surface, joining a fleet that had not existed 1 month ago. "Your technology has been very helpful," Park continued. "Doctor says we have learned more in 6 weeks than we would have in a century of normal research. Your invasion was the best thing that ever happened to our space program." Stared at the growing human fleet. They had done this in weeks, built ships, trained crews, developed tactics, all while fighting a war for their survival. The impossible had become ordinary where humans were concerned. "Even if you destroy us here," said, trying to find some ground to stand on, "the Dominion will send more ships, larger fleets. You cannot." "We are counting on it." Park's smile was small but genuine. "We have already begun designing ships capable of reaching your home worlds. By the time your reinforcements arrive, we will be ready for them. And when we defeat them as well, we will follow them home." The words hit like physical blows. They were not just planning to survive. They were planning to pursue, to chase thee across the stars, to bring the war to them. "That is insane," whispered. "That is humanity," Park replied. "We do not forgive, we do not forget, and we never ever stop." Before could respond, new alerts filled the bridge. Human fighters were approaching the fleet. At their head was a pilot who should not have existed anymore. "Lieutenant," the pilot had interrogated weeks ago, the one with the broken arm and the bruises on her face, the one who had spoken about spite. She was supposed to be in a prison facility. She was supposed to be secured. Instead, she was leading a squadron of modified human fighters directly at the flagship. "She survived," said, disbelief in his voice. "She escaped and returned to combat." Watched her approach. Her flying was precise, aggressive, fearless. She had been shot down once and had walked for hours through enemy territory. She had been captured and interrogated. She had escaped, recovered, and returned to fight again. Nothing that did could stop her. Nothing could break her. She was not unique. She was typical. Every human was like this. "Commander said, 'Your orders.'" looked at the battle map. He saw his dying fleet. He saw the growing human forces. He saw lieutenants' fighters closing in. He saw, for the first time in perfect clarity, the truth he had been avoiding. "Full retreat," he ordered. "All ships withdraw immediately, set course for space." There was a moment of shocked silence on the bridge. In the history of the Dominion, no fleet commander had ever ordered a full retreat. Victory was expected. Defeat was punished with death. "Commander," began, "the High Council will. The High Council can execute me if they wish." His voice was empty, all emotion drained away. "I would rather face their punishment than spend another day on this planet." The order was given. The surviving ships turned and fled, limping away from Earth as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. The humans did not pursue. They did not need to. They had won. In the aftermath, as the blue planet shrank in the viewing window, sat alone in his quarters. He had to prepare his report to the High Council. He had to explain how the greatest military force in the galaxy had been defeated by a species that could not even reach other stars. He thought about what he would say. He thought about the faces of all the humans he had encountered, and her defiant laughter, Bay and his final sacrifice, and her impossible genius, Han and his code-breaking speed, and her unbreakable will, and his refusal to die, Park and his calm confidence. What made them so dangerous? What made them different from every other species the Dominion had conquered? Finally understood. True terror was not facing a stronger enemy. Any species could be stronger. Any species could have better weapons or larger numbers. These things could be overcome. True terror was facing an enemy who treated death as an inconvenience, not a deterrent. An enemy who got better the harder you pushed them. An enemy who had practiced war against themselves for 10,000 years and were grateful for the chance to use those skills on someone else. True terror was facing an enemy who would chase you across the stars out of pure principle, who would sacrifice everything just to ensure you lost, who smiled when the odds were against them because struggle was what they lived for. True terror was humanity. Began to record his report. To the High Council of the Dominion, I am commander of the flagship Eternal Conquest. I am transmitting this message to provide my full account of the Earth campaign. He paused, gathering his thoughts. We were wrong about everything. The humans are not a primitive species waiting to be conquered. They are not simple creatures who can be intimidated by superior technology. They are something far more dangerous. They are survivors. They have survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and countless wars against themselves. Every challenge has made them stronger. Every defeat has made them more determined. They do not break. They adapt. In 6 weeks, they reverse-engineered technology that took us centuries to develop. In 6 weeks, they built a space fleet from nothing. In 6 weeks, they went from defending their planet to planning invasions of our worlds. This is not normal. This is not possible, but it happened. I have learned the meaning of true terror. It is not power. It is not weapons. It is facing an enemy who enjoys the fight more than they fear death. It is knowing that no matter what you do, they will find a way to make you suffer for it. Looked out the viewport one last time. Earth was a tiny blue dot now, barely visible against the stars. Somewhere on that dot, humans were celebrating their victory. Somewhere, they were building ships and training soldiers and planning for the next battle. They would never stop. My recommendation to the High Council is simple. Do not engage the humans. Do not threaten them. Do not give them any reason to come looking for us. Leave them alone. Forget their world exists. Because if we do not, if we push them again, they will not stop at defense. They will come for us. And when they do, they will bring everything they have learned in 10,000 years of war against themselves. They will come smiling. Ended the recording. He sat in silence for a long time, thinking about the small planet full of impossible creatures, the planet that had changed everything. The name Eternal Conquest was painted on the hull of his ship, a name that had seemed powerful once, a name that had inspired fear across the galaxy. Now it felt like a cruel joke. Human, such a simple name for such a terrifying species. Closed his eyes and tried to forget the sound of their laughter. He knew he never would. Far behind the fleeing fleet, on a small blue planet, humanity looked up at the stars. They had won their first war against an alien species. They had proven what they were capable of. And they were hungry for more.